did it again. I brought home 23 books. After I just did a 50+ book haul, I'm doing another big one. Hello everybody, welcome back to another video here on my channel, another book related video, and today we are doing a book haul. I've been kind of gone. I haven't filmed in a very long time. It's been over a month that I've filmed. I feel kind of weird, but it was kind of nice taking a break because I have all of the videos prior to this, like the past 8 pre-filmed, so I didn't have to necessarily do anything. I just edited and then posted them, and then on vacation when I was actually back home, I got to relax, do whatever I wanted, and not have to stress about what was going to be posted. And then also when I came back to Vegas and then went out to Huntington Beach in California, I got to relax. I read a couple books on vacation, which were 300 pages a piece, so did pretty decent on actual reading. Not so much when I was back home for basically a month. With that being said, I did do a little bit of shopping here and there, and also when I came back to Vegas, and I've accumulated more books back home in actual Indiana. I ended up selling all 22 books that in my last massive book haul, which I can have it linked up here, that Las Vegas Books did not accept. So I went home to Half Price Books. They took every single book I had. That was 22 books. I only had like $10 I think in store credit, which wasn't as much as I was hoping, but honestly $10 is better than nothing. And I turned around and I bought a couple books, and then I also grabbed a few from my mom's library, brought them out here with me, and we ended up buying more books. I went from getting rid of 22 to now accumulating 23, but at least some of them I'm just borrowing. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this book haul. I first want to start with books that I physically bought, and this was while I was back home in Indiana and Kentucky. So this was at Half Price Books in Indiana. This was pretty much $10. I'm not going to go through the prices with everything else because I realized after coming back I lost some of the receipts. Even though I scanned them, I can't figure out which books were which. I remember to a point some of them, but I'm not honestly going to talk about prices. I did have, like I said, $10 store credit, or around $10 store credit, and for around $11 I found a book box of the Nancy Drew files, which I think was a really good find. I already have the first one, which is Secrets Can Kill, and I'm not necessarily collecting these like I am the original mystery stories of Nancy Drew and then the Hardy Boys, but this is just like a fun little tiny reads. We open this up or slide these out. We'll start with the Christmas one. This is a Nancy Drew and Hardy Boys super mystery, and it is A Crime for Christmas. Then we have Nancy Drew case number 66, Tall, Dark, and Deadly. I actually read this one already. Then we have number 58, Hot Pursuit, number 64, The Wrong Track, and finally number 63, Mixed Signals. Next at Half Price Books, I was having a hard time finding what I wanted because what I really wanted was to try and complete series that I had, and for whatever reason their system was just very mixed up. They didn't necessarily have authors correctly in place. I was very confused on what I was looking at, and I don't know if it was just this specific store or if Half Price Books has changed in the last 3+ years. I haven't been able to go because we don't have one out here in Nevada. So I did pick up They Both Die at the End, and I already read this one. I did enjoy this a lot. It did kind of start off slow, or it was like a little bit hard to get into, but I read this actually out in Huntington Beach, and it only took a few days, and it was pretty intriguing. I honestly thought the whole plot was just basically two random strangers met and found each other and decided to spend their last day together. I mean, the title obviously says they die at the end, but I did not think anything else was going to transpire from those two characters, and they're both male, so I didn't necessarily like that, but I did enjoy the story, and I liked how they were friends, and I'm gonna kind of say adventures they went on, the little things that they did throughout the day. And I thought this writing was really easy to read. Like I said, there was a little bit where I was trying to get into it and I struggled. I just felt like it was a little bit slow, but then after a while it like picked up and it got a lot better. I was real excited about finding this one. This is the first in a duology that I have been looking for. In my massive thrift haul, you might have seen that I picked up Adrena Young. It was called The Girl the Sea Gave Back. And this is book 1. It's called Sky in the Deep, and I just finished this book. I like this book a lot. She is the author of Fable, Namesake, Saint, and also The Last Legacy. And then she just has a new book that just was on Book of the Month that Haley Pham just read and apparently loved. And that's how I feel with her books. I found her because of Fable. I found it in a thrift store. It was more hard to pronounce some of the names, some of the worlds. It's kind of like Viking or like Norse, I think. I didn't really look too much into it, but that's what I was gathering from this book. And it was very interesting, and I'm currently on the second one, which is not the same characters. I thought it would be like Fable and Namesake, where she takes a whole book, she writes it, and then she just splits it down the middle and makes 2 books. But in reality, this was a complete book, and then there is a second one that's in the same world. It involves one character or a couple actually from this book, but otherwise we have new characters, new things, and setting or new events that are taking place. So far I have to say I really like this series. It's not, you know, my favorite series in the world, but it is pretty decent. And also with all of her books, she always has little details. This one just says breathe fire, so there isn't much on it, but it's just simple black, just like the little bit of effort that goes into her books. Next, I was given a very popular book that I was thinking about reading this whole series, and then I found out, apparently, I don't know if it's true, but there's rumors that there's going to be another book. Somebody in my family just recently got a whole book set for, I do believe, her birthday or anniversary. She ended up giving me the first ACOTAR. It is A Court of Thorns and Roses. I feel like everybody has heard of this book. I feel like a lot of people have read this book. I have not even tried to start this just because I know there's how many, like 5 other books to the series, and I don't have any other ones. And also with that new one apparently coming about, I don't necessarily want to go ahead and start this when I have other series that I could read and finish that are complete. Then I ended up going to Barnes & Noble's one day, and this is the only thing I bought from Barnes & Noble's. I forgot how expensive Barnes & Noble's is. I have never really run in there too much. It's been like 10 years. And I have originally my favorite movie, Christine by Stephen King. This is my mom's copy that she gave me a long time ago because she has multiple copies. And this one isn't a first edition, and she has another one that is a first edition. She gave me this one to read, and I do like it, but it's from the 70s or 80s. This one's actually from the 80s, and it's showing a little bit of its age. When I was trying to read it, it was making very bad noises, like the glue is too dried up, and it basically was just going to fall apart, and I don't want the pages coming out, to be honest. So I did end up picking up for $20 a new cover, and I got this one because it's pretty floppy, but also because it ties in the movie, because there's certain things that happen in the movie that don't happen in the book, and I don't want to say what exactly, but the cover kind of shows it. So I wanted something that was also really nice, like an updated cover, because I feel like some of the Stephen King covers are really nice now, and I'm not saying they aren't in the past, but some of them look really good. So I did pick up this one just because I was excited to one day when we move here soon to hopefully get bookcases that are different, and then I can display my books and have my favorite movie and one of my favorite books displayed. Basically, I was kind of thinking maybe like this. These are my only 2 books that I have 2 of, pretty much. I get rid of all the other duplicates. Our next little section is actually books that I am borrowing from my ma, and 2 of them are Stephen King, and then 2 other ones go together. The first one is Misery, and this one actually is a first edition, so she has entrusted me with a first edition one, which is kind of scary. But everybody talks about these books, like some of the older ones are really good, and I figured since she has pretty much every single Stephen King book up until I think like 2015 or so, because they used to have a website where you could get his books monthly, and she did that all the time. She got a lot of first editions, and because of that, I feel like I could just use her as a little library. So I'm doing that with Misery and also The Institute, because I've heard really great things about this book and I love this cover. Then also borrowing from my ma, I got The Tattooist of Auschwitz. She also ordered apparently this is a second book, and it is Silke's Journey, I do believe is how you say her name. And basically they just go hand in hand. I assume that you find out about Silke in The Tattooist of Auschwitz. And I've also seen this one all over the place. I feel like a lot of people read it and then they didn't really talk too much about it, but I've seen on Goodreads a lot of people read this one. So I was real excited. My mom liked it. She read it pretty quickly, and then she also read this one, and I think there's a third one. And then finally, we get into my thrifted books out here in Las Vegas. And I have to say, Las Vegas, I don't know what's going on, if they are very picky about what they accept or don't accept. But I've noticed, especially from Las Vegas books, a lot of my books are first editions. I don't understand how, because I've never really thought about first editions too much, because the only ones I ever cared about were like Nancy Drew's, and I knew I would never get them. So I'm very amazed to see some of these that are first editions. I'm not going to go through every single one and tell you if it is or isn't, but I know specifically one of them that I found, which I didn't know was a big giant book. And we'll start with that one. I actually have been looking, I almost bought a box set at Half Price Books, but I got the Nancy Drew instead. I've been contemplating reading The Chronicles of Narnia, and this is actually a first edition. It's a little bit in like this clear coating, plastic coating on top. It's a little bit frayed. It's starting to show its age, but I will say this book was only $2 at Goodwill. It's like 700 or 800 pages long. All of them are in here at once. I didn't know The Chronicles of Narnia, they did where they put all the books together in one book. I thought that was really cool. When I seen it, I was like, for $2, you know what, I'm just gonna get it, because I've been thinking about getting it, because I've heard a lot of people reading this. I feel like now's the time to at least pick it up. Maybe not necessarily get to reading it, since I have a lot more other books that I was thinking about reading, but definitely to at least own it. And then while in Savers, I thought this little thriller or mystery sounded really good. It is called The Woman Outside My Door. I thought it looked pretty good, and then I was just kind of in the mood to pick up random books that I thought sounded good or looked interesting, and not necessarily just trying to find the really hyped up or book talk, booktube type books. This one says, all children have imaginary friends, Georgina tells herself. It's perfectly normal and they all grow out of it eventually. But when her 7-year-old son, Cody, tells her about new Granny, the friend he's met in the park, Georgina is instantly suspicious. Something, call it maternal instinct, tells her that he isn't making this up. But maybe Georgina is losing her mind. It wouldn't be the first time after all, and with the recent death of her mother, it's no wonder Georgina is paranoid that Cody has invented a new Granny to replace his beloved grandmother. Her husband, Bren, becomes the voice of reason, assuring Georgina that it's just a game, the product of their son's overactive imagination. But what if Cody's imaginary friend is not so imaginary after all? That sounded really intriguing to me, so I think it was only like $2 as well. It wasn't very much. Another thriller mystery that I picked up was The End of Her. This one I looked up on Goodreads and I seen it was pretty decently star rated, and I've seen a couple reviews of not like spoilers but people saying like it was a really fast-paced book, they really enjoyed it, it was very suspenseful, it kept them on their toes, you know, things like that. The back of this one says Stephanie and Patrick are adjusting to life with their colicky twin girls. The babies are a handful, but even as Stephanie struggles with the disorientation of a sleep deprivation, there's one thing she's sure of. She has all that she has ever wanted. Then Erica, a girl from Patrick's past, appears and makes a disturbing accusation. Patrick has always said his first wife's death was an accident, but now Erica claims it was murder. Patrick insists he's innocent and this is nothing but a blackmail attempt. Still, Erica knows things about Patrick, things that make Stephanie begin to question her husband. Stephanie isn't sure what or who to believe. As Stephanie's trust in Patrick begins to falter, Patrick stands to lose everything. Is Patrick telling the truth? Is Erica the persuasive liar Patrick says she is? Or has Stephanie made a terrible mistake? And then the last thriller mystery that I found, I don't know which one, so I just keep calling them thriller and mystery. The Guest List by Lucy Foley. I've heard a lot about her and I've seen a lot about her on TikTok. I think Larry Reed has read her and I know a few other people. I can't remember all who. I know a lot of people have read some of her books. So I figured her and Rayleigh Sager, anytime I see them or Alice Feeney, I would just grab any of their books. And this was the first one I think I've ever seen in a thrift store and it was only like $2 or $3, so it wasn't too horribly much. Then at Savers, I found not necessarily a whole series, but at least 3 books out of the series by Marissa Meyer. This is Cinder, and she wrote The Renegade. We do have Cinder, and then I have Winter, and also Crest. I think I had that out of order. I think Crest goes in the middle. I'm missing Scarlet, and then also Fairest, and then if you count like any of the novellas, or at least the 0.5s on Goodreads. So we just have these 3. So since I seen it, and I knew I was going to read Renegades, Arch Enemies, and Supernova, I wanted to pick this up and also read this series. And since it was almost a complete series, I thought it was a better opportunity to do that. Last 3 books that we are going over. First, we have Glass Sword, and I do have Red Queen. These are the only 2 books of the series that I have, but I almost considered buying this at Half Price Books, except for that it was like $13. I don't remember Half Price Books being that expensive, but it was a little bit more expensive than I wanted to pay for a book that I couldn't necessarily read anytime soon. I did end up finding this at Savers for $3.49, and I was really excited about that because I've seen a couple people going through and either rereading this or reading the series for the first time, and there's a lot of mixed opinions. We'll have to see when it's my turn to read that. This next book I was so excited to see. I did not know it was like a 7-book series, but I've heard so many great things about this, and Haley Pham has read this, I'm pretty sure the whole series, except for I think they just came out with another book. I found Red Rising for $3, and like I said, everybody has been talking about this as an adult sci-fi. I have been loving fantasy and sci-fi so much, and I read a lot of young adult, but I also wanted to try out this version that's more grown up, and apparently it's sometimes hard to get into. Like, you have to use your brain to read this one, and I'm kind of intrigued on if I would enjoy that or not, because I don't think I've ever really had a book that challenges me, unless we're talking like older historical or just like from the 1800s that talk a little bit differently. That's like the most challenging I think I've ever read, and that's not necessarily a challenge. And the final book, which this book is a duology, and it also has a lot of controversy over it, but I didn't even care. I said if these old Book Talk and BookTube books were going to hit the thrift stores, I was going to pick them up, and it ends with us hits the thrift store. I feel like I've been finding a lot of Colleen Hoover books. I found Verity, maybe someday, maybe not, as the old covers, and now I found this one, which is only 4 books, but considering the fact that she was always so hyped up, a lot of people talked about this series and how much they hated the series. It was hard. I think it covers like domestic violence and things like that, but also she made a calendar, I do believe, with this specific series, and that was like her downfall, or at least what I've heard was her downfall. I don't know if that's true or not, but she was just trying to be greedy and get money, and she made out of this series when she could have chose a different book, a different series, or a different whatever. She tried making a calendar and then she quit or discontinued it, or I don't know how that all went. I don't really follow and keep up with her, but her books are starting to hit the thrift stores, and I'm kind of okay with that because I want to see what everybody had hyped up. Verity was the only book I've ever read from her, and I have to say I absolutely love that book. That book was pretty decent and it was very entertaining. So that is all 23 books that I'm going over in this haul. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you guys all enjoyed it, and be sure to stay tuned for any upcoming videos. I'm gonna try and have planned a few different videos here soon, and also be sure to click back on any videos. I just recently had posted my massive 50 plus book haul, and then also my Blind Dog Chooses My TBR. Those are like, I think, the last ones that have been posted for books. I don't remember because, like I said, I kind of pre-filmed and then let everything post while I was busy. So it's been a few months, but I do believe those were the last book related videos to be posted. So go ahead, if you're curious, go check up on those, and I hope to see y'all next week, and God bless.